It's the most wonderful time of the year. It's college football bowl season and playoff time. We'll have all of that coming up, and also some Texas volleyball postseason breakdown, and of course the highlights of the week. You won't want to miss it. Coming up on the 1-0 Sports Show.
Texas finally 1-0, finally riding for the brand.
I was watching the A&M LSU game with my father. He's an Aggie. And nothing brought me more joy. To throw the touchdown, he was like, oh no!
You heard it here first from Hunter. Book your plane tickets to Omaha today.
It's on a Saturday night. What y'all doing on Saturday night? Just come to the game.
Athletes come out and support the Longhorns. TCU doesn't have a shot against Texas in this game.
Welcome into this special edition of this 1-0 Sports Show on a Wednesday morning. We had to call a special edition to talk college football playoff, of course, with the committee coming out. But no, I'm Adam Ogburn. It's my pleasure to be joined for the first time on the host panel by Justin Goosman. Justin, how are you doing this morning?
Good. Great to be here. First time on 1-0. Been on Crossfire, been on Press Box, but 1-0, you know, it's a little bit different. Really excited to be here.
Completing the Triple Crown right at the end of the semester. Definitely an impressive feat. Let's get right into it. Let's start this 1-0 Sports Show like we start every 1-0 Sports Show, and that's with who's hot and who's not. So, Justin, let's start with you. Who's hot for you right now?
Who's hot? I'm going to go with a player in the NBA. I'm going to go with Andrew Nembhard. If you watch a lot of college basketball, you know who Andrew Nembhard is. From Gonzaga, he had an amazing game against the Warriors this past week where he had 31 points and 13 assists, and he held Steph Curry to his worst game all season. But the game before that, he actually hit a buzzer beater to beat the Los Angeles Lakers in a game at Crypto Arena. And Andrew Nembhard has been playing really, really well all season. Rick Carlisle talked about his impact on the team and just everything he's able to bring. You can see the buzzer beater right there, skip pass, just absolutely deadly. So I'm going to go with Andrew Nembhard for who's hot. And for my who's not, I think I got to go with a college basketball team here, and that's got to be the North Carolina Tar Heels. They have looked extremely inconsistent all season long. They started off as the #1 team in the preseason poll, and they've lost 4 straight. They are now unranked. They've fallen all the way out of the top 25, and Hubert Davis has a lot to figure out because they're returning a lot of guys like Caleb Love, Armando Bacot, RJ Davis. These are all guys that were a part of their Final Four run who are not really doing a whole lot to contribute to winning this year. They've looked really rough on the defensive end, so the Tar Heels have a lot to figure out. That's why I'm going with they are not hot right now.
Well, remember, they took their lumps last year. They were the 8th seed, I believe, coming into that tournament. So it's not like they were a blue blood #1 seed the whole time. So we'll see if they can get going. They had that crazy triple or quadruple overtime game against Alabama a week ago out in Portland. That was a heck of a game as well watching. We'll see if the Tar Heels can get back on track. But nice thing about college basketball, it's a long season. They're just getting to ACC play. Played Virginia Tech in their first ACC game. Obviously fell in that one, but it is definitely a long season. For my who's hot, I'm going to go over to the NFL. How about the Detroit Lions jumping up into second place in the NFC North? Dan Campbell has got them rolling. They absolutely destroyed the Jaguars this past weekend, 40-14. Jared Goff threw for 340 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 114 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Lions have won 4 out of the last 5. They're 1 loss in the last 5 games. It came out of the Bills on that last-second field goal. The Lions are riding that with arguably one of the best teams in the NFL in the Buffalo Bills. So the bookies, too, in Vegas, they're respecting the Lions. 2-point favorites over the 10-2 Vikings this upcoming weekend. So Dan Campbell has got the Lions rolling now in Detroit.
Yeah, and that Lions team, you know, if they beat the Bills, they're sitting at 500 right in the middle of that playoff race. But if they can keep it up, they'll be sitting pretty come January.
I told you on the first 1-0 Sports Show of the year, I said the Lions, they're my NFL sleeper, and Dan Campbell has got them rolling here mid-season. Also going on right now, pretty big tournament over Qatar. How about the FIFA World Cup? And there was a pretty big disappointment yesterday for one of the favorites, Spain. Doing what Spain does best. They controlled the ball, 77% possession, and they created absolutely nothing. Just 1 shot on target for them in 120 minutes against Morocco. Moroccan goalkeeper Yassine Bono, he ended up being the hero. He saved 2 out of the 3 Spanish penalties. The other hit the post. Pablo Sarabia, they brought him in. Spain brought him in the last 5 minutes to arguably take a penalty. He managed to hit the post from open play and then hit his penalty off the post too. Not his finest moment, but how about Morocco? I think they have a chance against Portugal as well. Portugal obviously demolished Switzerland, but with Morocco's defensive discipline, that will be a heck of a game to watch in the quarterfinals. So another World Cup favorite goes out. It's been a pretty crazy World Cup so far.
It's absolutely been wild, and that's one of the bigger upsets that I've seen in World Cup play. Really, really exciting stuff going on over in Qatar.
Yeah, and those quarterfinal matchups, they are something to behold. England, France, Netherlands, Argentina, Brazil, Croatia, in addition to that Portugal-Morocco game. So a lot of big-time countries going at it. Teams with World Cup championship hopes are taking on each other in the quarterfinals. So that's going to be fun to watch. That gets underway on Friday morning. Now let's move on from who's hot and who's not over to what's trending. And what is trending right now in Austin is a disappointing basketball loss. Texas Longhorns taken to overtime by the Illinois Fighting Illini. Illinois pulling away late in Madison Square Garden to hand the Longhorns their first loss of the year. So, Justin, what did you make about the Longhorns' performance last night? First loss of the year.
You know, I felt like the Longhorns controlled the game for the most part. They played really, really good defense throughout, but towards the end, the execution just wasn't there. They couldn't find their rhythm on offense after about the 5-minute mark in the second half. Marcus Carr hit a big turnaround fadeaway in the last couple minutes, but that was about it. The Longhorns didn't get much going on their last possession to potentially win the game. And I think that it's okay. You know, you're going to struggle. Illinois is a really, really solid team. They're well coached. It's a good learning lesson for this Longhorns team, but definitely disappointing that they couldn't get it done.
Yeah, just some sloppy possessions there down the stretch. I thought it was interesting, too, how many minutes Brock Cunningham was getting. I love Brock Cunningham. I think he really does bring a different element to this team, kind of that glue guy, but do you really need him in late in overtime in a crucial game? I'm not really too sure. He did have a nice three, but also stepped out of bounds, had a couple of mistakes late on. Marcus Carr didn't look really smooth in overtime. He had a really, really bad turnover with about 30 seconds to go as Texas was trying to get back in. Illinois just claimed two free throws, and with a score, Texas would have gotten it back to within one possession game, but that turnover killed it off. But I think, like you said, Justin, it's a long season. It's going to be a learning curve. In Illinois, they're no slacker, top 20 team. So I think disappointing for Texas considering they led in that second half. They led by as many, I think, as 10 points. But definitely a learning curve for Chris Beard's team last night.
Absolutely, and we were talking about it yesterday. You know, any college basketball team, they're going to make that run in the second half, even if you have it at about 8 to 10 points.
Yeah.
That's never easy to take control of in the end.
Texas is just going to have to improve on the execution down the stretch, and I think we saw this last year with this team too. They sometimes go a little bit cold on the offensive end. We hadn't seen that so far this year, but kind of reared its ugly head last night. Let's flip over from college basketball to college football. College football playoff committee coming out with the top 4. We'll have Georgia and Ohio State as the 1 versus 4 matchup. Michigan and TCU in the 2 versus 3. So, Justin, in your opinion, did the committee get it right this year?
I think they absolutely got it right. They've set the precedent since the beginning of the college football playoff that if you are a one-loss team, you are most likely going to get into the college football playoff. And while Nick Saban, he talked about, you know, you put us in a neutral site against maybe TCU or Ohio State or one of these other teams that Alabama's probably the favorite, but I think whenever you do drop 2 games and you're not in that conference championship game, the committee cannot put you in over a team like Ohio State that was only 1 loss, 1 game away from their conference championship. And so I think the committee absolutely got it right, and I'm really excited for a good slate of playoff games.
They are definitely good matchups. I will say the Big Ten was incredibly weak this year.
For sure.
And Ohio State and Michigan were ahead above everyone else, and so interesting to see them get in the playoffs. I think interesting, too, Ohio State, they'll be without star receiver Jackson Smith and Jigba, not healing up from that hamstring injury. That's a big loss, but yeah, some big matchups. Big 12 hasn't been in the playoffs for a couple of years. It'll be interesting to see. It seemed like TCU all year was kind of skirted by the skin of their teeth, but I think deservedly they got in. I'm glad the committee didn't pull any shenanigans with getting Alabama in there. I think they made the right call at the end of the day. And like you said, I think both matchups are pretty good. We'll see if Ohio State, they have that one. Michigan honestly blew them out. Well, it'll be interesting to see if that was just a bad second half from the Buckeyes or if maybe they're weaker than people thought. It's definitely going to be fun to see coming up on New Year's Eve. We'll talk about the playoffs here more later. Jordan Geelhoed, college Crossfire executive producer, he's going to join us and give his predictions for them along with us later in the show. Last big bit of college football news on this What's Trending segment. Deion Sanders going to Colorado, taking the top job there, moving on from Jackson State after a 12-0 season. So, Justin, in your opinion, is this the right move for Deion Sanders?
For Deion Sanders, it absolutely is the right move. Like he said, if you do not advance in the coaching ranks as a college coach, NFL coach, anywhere in football, if you don't advance, you're going to get fired. And so I think eventually Deion Sanders was going to have to move up to an FBS school. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to bring HBCUs back to national prominence across the country. But I think Jackson State definitely reaped the benefits, and I think it's good for Deion Sanders as a personal career move. Sucks for some of the students, especially at Jackson State or some of the Colorado football players. But for Deion Sanders, absolutely the right move.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think it's a great move by Colorado, too. I thought his message to his players very interesting, telling a lot of them to hit the portal. I don't know about that messaging. I mean, I know Colorado's been struggling, but it's just not a great first impression. I think there's other ways to go about it to tell them that, hey, things are going to change from now on. If you don't, this is going to be my way. We're going to work hard. If you don't like it, then you can hit the portal. Tell them to hit the portal straight up is a little bit harsh. He will get one more shot with Jackson State, though. They're going to play South Carolina State in the Celebration Bowl here in about a week and a half as they look to cap off an undefeated 13-0 season. I agree, it's a big loss for the HBCUs. Interesting, Deion Sanders said earlier, I think when he first got hired from Jackson State, he felt like it was a calling from God to be at an HBCU. A lot of people are using that against him now, but I think, like you said, Justin, it's just kind of a reality of the industry is you have to move up. I think everyone, at the end of the day in their job, is trying to move up the ladder, and that's kind of what this is. So I think he served 3 really good years. I think he's helped bring HBUs, starting to bring back in the spotlight. It's going to be a continual process, but it's going to be interesting to do see what he does at Colorado, because Colorado was arguably, I think, the worst Power 5 team by a long shot this year.
For sure, and it was really interesting to hear their athletic director say that they don't have the money for him yet, but it will be there. I thought that was kind of a strange thing to say right away. But
hey, apparently the big money boosters are up somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. They just got to find them. That will wrap it up for what's trending. When we come back, Jordan Geelhoed, he's going to join the panel. He's going to help me and Justin break down the plays of the week. You won't want to miss it. You're watching the 1-0 Sports Show.
She's gonna unmute you guys.
Alright, cool. We should do it after that.
Welcome back into the 1-0 Sports Show. Time to welcome Jordan Geelhoed to the panel. Jordan, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Yeah, this is my first time on 1-0 all semester. I snuck right in at the end.
There you go.
Garbage time, but yeah. Here I am. I'm ready to judge some plays here.
Everyone's completing their TSTV Sports Triple Crown today.
Absolutely.
There you go. Got to put that one on the resume. For those of you who don't know how our versus segments work, Justin and I have each picked out a play for some different categories of highlights, and then Jordan will come in at the end. He's going to tell us which play best fits the category. And we'll go from there. So
My word is final.
there you go. Oh man, we let him be Crossfire host once, man. Now he's laying down the law.
Exactly.
Definitely less corrupt than our other Crossfire hosts, right? Hey, no sucking up to him, okay, Goose? Hey, Justin's a little bit notorious for that. Let's get right to it. Best college basketball play of the week. Justin, let's start with you. What do you have for us?
I'm going to go with Charlotte versus Davidson. Game came down to the wire. Jackson Threadgill would eventually get a chance to shoot the ball. You can see him catch the ball outside the three-point line, misses the first look, but Charlotte gets the rebound, kick it back out for the three. Jackson Threadgill puts it up, bang, and Charlotte would walk it off against Davidson. That's got to be my college basketball play of the week. Super fun game. Just overall a great time.
That may have been the craziest 15 seconds. The amount of guys who are on the floor in that 10 to 15 second segment.
Big mass. It looked like a football scrum or something.
Unbelievable. Well, Justin, you dug deep for that one. I also did a little bit deep digging. Let's go Duquesne against Ball State. Two blue bloods of college basketball. Duquesne bringing down the court. They're down by 2. They're working around, drive. We're eventually going to kick out here. Look at Jimmy Clark. Off balance. He's going to throw it up for the win, and it goes. Unbelievable. Kind of fading away from the basket. It looked like an absolute prayer. Somehow it goes down, and Duquesne knocks off Ball State 78-77. So, Jordan, 2 crazy sequences at the end of the game. Which one was the best college basketball play of the week?
Wow, I think the Duquesne one was the more exciting and the more unlikely shot because, I mean, he was just doing a lot of this, throw up a prayer. But honestly, I think that the Charlotte one, just because they got the rebound off the free throw, shot it once, missed, got the rebound again, and then put up another shot. And I think that perseverance is really what got me, and they eventually got the win off of that.
I didn't pay off Jordan.
Yes. Hey, I tell you what, that's not going to be a fun film room for Davidson the day after that game. It's going to be you guys had 2 chances to get the rebounds.
It's going to be box-out drills from start to finish in practice. Absolutely.
Let's go from college basketball now up to the NBA. Justin, let's start with you. What was your best NBA play of the week?
My NBA play of the week comes from, in my opinion, the NBA game of the year, the Lakers versus the Bucks, Giannis versus LeBron. Giannis would turn it over, but he would chase down LeBron on the fast break. We can see it one more time here. We know LeBron has that chase down ability, but Giannis over the GOAT, that's my NBA play of the week.
That was pretty impressive, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to go over to Dallas. How about Luka Doncic with some wizardry here? This was last night against the Nuggets. Look at this. He's gonna look one way, right? He's kicking out for the 3. Nope, throws it inside. Look at this in a slow-mo. Watch the Denver guys in the paint. They start stepping out. They're pretty sure he's going to throw it out. He sent 2 guys out to lunch. Great pass by Luka into Christian Wood. So some big-name players making some big-name plays. Jordan, which one for you was the better play?
Absolutely. I never even saw that Luka play. I saw the Giannis one. But that no-look pass really got me. He threw off both the guys. He had 2 of them open as well. He had a guy open on the three-point line, too. But I think just the skill of finding that guy and completing the pass, because not everyone can do it. Luka, one of the better passers in the league. I'm going to go with the Luka one. I do love Giannis blocking LeBron like LeBron blocks.
A little bit of a changing of the guard there. Giannis on LeBron. It's Giannis' show now.
That's what it felt like. Yeah.
All right, well, we've looked at some of the best basketball plays of the week. Now it's just time for the worst overall blooper of the week. Justin, let's start with you.
We're going to take it back to the NBA. This happened in Houston, in the Houston versus Philadelphia 76ers. This is a blooper from start to finish. James Harden loses the ball on the handle. Jalen Green throws a lob that's caught by Daniel House, but it's out of bounds, and Steven Silas can only shake his head. Rockets coach had no other choice. Up 7 in overtime. Why are you throwing a lob on a fast break? but the Rockets would retain the ball because Daniel House stepped out of bounds. Just an overall blooper all around on that play. Don't know what Jalen Green was thinking. Don't know what James Harden was doing. Got to go with that.
And Daniel House, another former Rocket.
He is.
Famously got kicked out of the bubble.
Yep.
Stuff.
Yeah, no, yeah. That kind of sums up the Rockets this year, man. They're tanking for Wembanyama. They somehow won that game, though.
They did, yeah. They've been rough all year.
Yeah.
Somehow the Sixers looked worse when Harden returned. I don't know how that happened.
I don't get it.
All right, my blooper also happened last night. Maryland taking on Wisconsin college basketball, but it's not either of those teams that we're focusing on. Let's go to some halftime entertainment. We got Bango the Buck. And it looks okay. He broke the rim. He broke the rim. The second half was delayed. Well, they fixed the rim. Look at Bango. He's like, man, I was just trying to do some halftime entertainment. And so you can see here right after this, yeah, they're having to work on. They had to replace the rim at halftime. So yeah, second half Maryland, Wisconsin delayed last night because Bango the Buck broke the rim. That's my blooper of the week.
I'm thinking, how heavy is the guy in the suit?
Yeah.
You got NBA players like centers and power forwards hanging on that rim all the time. Doesn't break, but Bango does it, and then it just bends all the way around. But honestly, I think I'm going to go with Justin's blooper because it was a blooper for both sides. I have no idea what Jalen Green was trying to cook, but when the Sixers recovered, they were still out of bounds, and so I think that they had the chance to potentially swing the momentum back in their favor, but their feet were just in the wrong place, and I think that that's just a what was anybody thinking type of play.
It just didn't look like professional basketball at all.
Hey, that's the Rockets where you got two former Rocket players on the 76ers making the mess of things, and then Jalen Green throwing that lob. So that's the state of Houston sports at the moment, besides the Astros at least. So we talked a lot about basketball. Let's go for some football. College football championship. We had the FBS conference championships. We had the FCS playoffs. Let's see what our best play from those were. Justin, let's start with you.
Mine is going to come from the SEC Championship, Georgia versus LSU. I'm sure everybody saw this play. Just wild from start to finish. Once again, the field goal is blocked. Georgia players start celebrating. LSU thinks that the play is over. One Georgia player waits for everybody to walk off, picks up the ball, and runs all the way down the field, as you can see right here. Ends up scoring a touchdown. And it was just wild. I've never seen anything like that. If you saw the coach's reaction afterwards in the booth, he was saying, don't pick up the ball, don't touch it, don't touch it. And then he picks it up, runs it all the way for a touchdown. Everybody goes crazy. That's my play of the week.
That's so crazy. How many times does the ball just sit there after a blocked field goal when it gets kind of tipped like that? I've never seen one returned like that.
No, definitely not. Anytime it's returned, it's either short or it's a fake
Yeah,
or something
or
like
it's
that.
blocked backwards. But I've never seen where it gets kind of tipped and it just kind of sitting there and the player just picks it up.
It just dies, yeah.
Anyway, weird. I'm going to go down to the FCS playoffs. This was Incarnate Word taking on Furman, a little San Antonio representation. Look at this. Watch Lindsey Scott Jr., the quarterback. Look, he's falling down, and he somehow throws this up for a touchdown to Darian Chafin. Just insane. We're getting to watch again a little bit of slow-mo. I mean, I don't know how he gets this off. He's literally, I don't even know how he's not flat on the ground. But he somehow has enough arm power to throw it up. Just an impressive play by your San Antonio boys there.
Absolutely. I love the 210 representation. Not as impressive as UTSA. Shout out UTSA. But
Me.
Yeah. It's a crazy play. That's something that you see Patrick Mahomes do on a Sunday, and it's Incarnate Word. I'd say it's not often, though, you see a FCS team play on a soccer field that don't have a football field of their own. That's
I
a
didn't
soccer
know that.
field right there that they're playing on. But they still got the W. Still a pretty impressive team. I'm going to go with that play for Adam. Yeah.
Good stuff. I think we're not up at 2 apiece, so I hope our NFL plays are good.
I hope so.
Let's go. Best Week 13 NFL play. Justin, let's start with you.
Mine is from the Chargers and the Raiders. Justin Herbert threw an absolute dot. This play was 4th and 12, drops back, looks around, escapes the pocket, finds Keenan Allen all the way down the field, who catches it one-handed, gets up, and then waves at all the Raiders fans in the stands. That was the best NFL play that I saw from Week 13, just considering it was 4th and 12,
Yeah.
one-handed catch, the celebration, everything.
They were still down by 7 then when he caught it. So
They were.
They were. No. I'm saying that's a bold celebration to be waving goodbye to the Raiders fans.
And they lost.
When you're still trailing. So I don't know. That sums up the Chargers. Brandon Staley. I don't know what he's doing over there, man. Interesting decisions. my best NFL Week 13 play also happened in the clutch. Saints taking on the Bucks. Goose, look away. I know this was painful for your Falcons. This was huge because a loss for the Bucks would have put them within a half game of the Falcons, but Tom Brady does this. Seconds ticking down, just 3 seconds left. Rashad White gets in for the 6-yard touchdown. Puts the Bucks ahead at NFC South. Look at this impressive vertical. Oh, cut off. It's going to be Tom Brady actually was able to leap into his lineman's arm. So he's got a little bit more athleticism than he showed in Munich when he just fell over on the receiving pass, or on the attempted reception. So anyway, I think that's the best NFL play because of what it does for the playoff standings and, of course, just performing in the clutch. So two big plays. What you got?
Oh, yeah, okay. I mean, the Bucks, they looked bad all that game, but when it comes down to Tom Brady in the clutch, last drive, need to score, he still is able to convert that. But if you watch the full game, there was actually a play before that when Tom Brady threw to Chris Godwin in the end zone. Was a touchdown, got called back for a flag, and then Brady just got the touchdown again. So, just, I mean, like, it's a great play, but when it comes down to skill and impressiveness, to me, I'm going to have to go with the Justin Herbert throw and the Keenan Allen catch, because not only was it 4th down in crunch time, need to score, but just the fact that Herbert is able to make that throw. There's not many people. Brady's one, but there's not many people that can do that. And then when it comes to Keenan Allen, there's not many people that can catch that. I don't even know if he caught it one-handed. It looked like he did. It was like on his back shoulder. It was a crazy play.
I'll give him bold celebration of the week. the wave goodbye down by 7.
I thought that he was saying talk, like he's all talk or something like that.
When you're motioning at the fans when you're trailing with a couple minutes left in the 4th quarter, it doesn't tend to end well.
Yeah.
And then you still lose.
Yeah. I will say, though, when they actually win, the Chargers social media team is the best in the NFL. They pump out some good stuff. So, but glad Edley's out and about today, because she'd be going off over the Chargers' incompetence. So that's going to wrap it up, though, for our highlight segment. Jordan, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Don't worry, though. Jordan's going to be back. He's going to be back to break down college football bowl season and the playoffs here in just a bit. But when we come back, we've got a special guest joining us. Daily Texan volleyball reporter Tori Garcia is going to join the show. Texas has a big Sweet 16 matchup coming up against Marquette this week. She'll break that down. And the Longhorns path to the championship when we return on the 1-0 Sports Show. Welcome back into the 1-0 Sports Show. We're now joined by Daily Texan volleyball reporter Tori Garcia. Tori, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. You know, I'm typically the one doing the interviews, so this is going to be interesting.
There you go. Little Uno reverse card on this Wednesday morning. Texas volleyball looking good. They're #1 seed. They've got Marquette coming up in the Sweet 16. That's tomorrow afternoon at 1:30, so a little bit of a different time, so keep your eye out for that one. But Tori, let's start and look at Texas' body of work and what they've done so far this season, regular season, and obviously 2 tournament wins. What's kind of stood out to you about how Texas volleyball has played this year?
I have 2 things. So the first is just who these girls are as people. You know, it just impresses me every single time that I talk to them. You can tell that these girls really want to be bigger than the sport that they play, and I think that really drives up the engagement. We've had, I think, 8 or so sellout games in Gregory Gym, and that brings people in. People want to see these girls play, but just the girls as a whole. And when you have that electrified Gregory Gym, it really rallies behind those girls and gives them some more momentum. What also impressed me this season was this starting lineup and just the girls who are on the court as a whole, just because a lot of them are transfers, a lot of them are freshmen, but the way that they communicate with each other without having known each other for so long, because some of them weren't wearing Longhorn jerseys last year. That just impressed me because I talked to them and they all say that they are so close to one another that they can give each other critiques without it being offensive. So I think that that just whole communication is just something that really stood out.
For sure.
Tori, Texas started its NCAA tournament with 2 sweeps, one against Fairleigh Dickinson and the other against Georgia. What do you make of those 2 performances, those dominant wins?
I think those games stood out to me because we did not have a high number of kills in those 2 games. Compared to the regular season, we had these past 2 games 37 and 42, which is surprisingly low. So in that way, we had to focus on other aspects of the game. It came down to errors and service. And, you know, when Georgia had 21 errors on the match, that's unexcusable. And so that allowed Texas to have a 1-up. Also, Logan Eggleston, she had a 9-run serve, I think, in the second set. And when that happens, when we're dominant on our serves, it brings our opponents off the net. And when that happens, their offense slows down and they become more predictable. And so when that happens, we have some big blockers and our defense to be ready. And so Texas is just unstoppable.
Yeah, for sure. And they got those 2 performances, those first 2 games out of the way. Now they've got a big one coming tomorrow against Marquette in the round of 16, the NCAA tournament. So what challenges is this Marquette team going to pose, you think, for the Longhorns?
You know, Marquette, they came off, they're a 27-3 regular season team. So, you know, they're no joke. They're coming off of one of their best seasons in their program history, and it's their 2nd time making it into the Sweet 16 in the bracket. I know that they're well coached, you know, they're quick, they have some good arms, so I think they can hurt us in many different ways. And I think they want this title just as badly as we do, so it's going to come down, you know, to who battles it out best. But I think we struggle most when we play uncharacteristically. We rely a lot on our dominant kills, and so when we have a lot of tips, when we have a lot of roll shots and everything like that, it is difficult for us when we can't get good first touches because those set us up for in-system plays. And so with those in-system, it gives you a lot of options for the setter. And so if we have to rely on 1 or 2 players at a time, I think that'll really cause us to struggle.
Texas found this spot a couple years ago when Louisville came to town, so they definitely got to be ready for Marquette.
Marquette, they knocked off Georgia Tech, who I thought was going to be who Texas would be playing in this round. What will be the key to Texas making a deep run in the tournament? What weaknesses have they shown that they need to overcome?
Talking to Coach Jarrett Elliott, towards the beginning of the season, he said the key to this entire season was just getting their middles involved. When that happens, they make sure that they're in system play, and so like I said before, you have a balanced offense, you have more options for the setter, and it really allows your middles to work on their transition and having a good connection with their setter. For weaknesses, it may sound cliche, but when you're as good as Texas is, and when you've only lost 1 game this entire season, it can become boring.
Yeah.
And so it's a mental game. You know, these girls need to consistently take it one game at a time. So that's why I think it was really good for us to lose to Iowa State, just because it gave us put us back in that mindset when we're like, okay, we can lose to an unranked team.
Yeah.
Like, nothing is guaranteed for us. And also, like I said before, we struggle with out-of-system play. Games can get really, really messy, especially if we can't get out of our own way. So first touches are everything, and they set us up for success.
For sure, and as Texas looks to win the national title over these next 2 weeks, which part is going to be most important for the Longhorns, you think?
It's hard to pinpoint just one, just because we have Zoe Fleck, Libero of the Year, Logan Eggleston, Player of the Year. Who else? I know there's one more. Sage as our setter of the year.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think Logan Eggleston, she's been the heart of this team for the past 5 years. She came back for her 5th year to win this national championship. So they all want to do this for her and for Texas as a whole. I think she's an incredible server. She can really rack up those runs at a time and rack up those aces as well. She did beat the Longhorn ace record this year. But I also think that our connection between our setter Sage and middle blocker Asia O'Neal will be huge for us. Just because when Sage is able to set perfect sliders for Asia, it gets the crowd wild. It gets that momentum going. And also, Sage has quarterbacked this team this entire year. She did a few dump fakes the last 2 games, and I think that really throws off our opponent's defense.
Well, there's a lot of really good teams left. Who do you think is the biggest threat to Texas in their pursuit for a national title?
I think if the favorites end up winning, honestly, I think Minnesota will be. Just because they came in number 2 in our quartile of the bracket, but we did play them earlier in the season. We did beat them 3-1 sets. But they're a different team this year.
Yeah.
Or they're a different team throughout the season. They're not the same team that we played in the second or third game. You know, they study us. They improve just like we do. But what stood out to me is that the last time we played them, they had less errors than we did and a higher hitting percentage. And they only had 3 less kills than us. So if I were to just look at the stats, I would have thought that they would have, you know, come out on top if Texas hadn't been so dominant, like consistent as they were. So I think, you know, they're just a different team now. They've improved, and so I think they'll be a challenge.
Yeah, the Big Ten, man, they just seem to be absolutely loaded when it comes to volleyball. This is the part I'm sure the Daily Texan people love us for this. Jordan Mitchell loves us. Hunter loves us, man. We put him on the spot so many times, so it's our turn to put you on the spot. How deep will this Texas team go in the tournament this year?
You know, I don't want to be biased or anything, but, you know, I think we'll go all the way. Jared Elliott said he saw the joy on these players' faces throughout the entire season, throughout the tournament, and he just knows that they want this really badly. I know even though they were ranked number 1 and only lost 1 game, they grind it out in practice. They do a lot of, you know, 6-on-6, and, like, I've had the privilege of knowing this team for the entire season, and they always just come in with a smile on their face, and, you know, they want to do great things, and I know Logan does too, being her 5th year, and every girl gives 110%, so let's hope we can put another banner up in Greg.
It's going to be fun to watch over the next week and a half as the Longhorns look to be the last team standing. We'll see, Tori, if your prediction comes true. I know we all have our fingers crossed here in Austin. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, guys.
When we come back, Goose and I will look back over the college football season that was. We'll look at the sleepers, the disappointments, and the plays of the year. You won't want to miss it here on the 1-0 Sports Show. Welcome back into the 1-0 Sports Show. Bowl season and the college football playoffs are upon us, but before we get to our predictions for those, we want to take a quick look back on the season that was. And so let's start with the Texas Longhorns. Longhorns obviously finishing 8-4. They'll be heading to the Alamo Bowl to take on the Washington Huskies here in a couple of weeks. So let's look back on the first 12 games of the Texas season. Justin, for you, what was the best Texas play this year?
You could go with a lot. There are a lot of different Bijan runs you could choose, a few different deep passes to Xavier Worthy maybe. But for me, I think it has to be the Keandre Coburn strip sack of Adrian Martinez in Manhattan versus the now Big 12 champions. This was essentially to win the game in the fourth quarter. Huge play, big win for Texas. That would be my play of the year just because of the stakes that were so high in that game and the fashion that which it happened late in the game. That's why I'm going to go with that for them.
Well, and it felt like that was another one of those second halves that was starting to slip away, and so that was a huge play for the Longhorns to get a win after some tough losses. For me, I'm going to go back to that Iowa State game at home. This was a game the Longhorns almost lost, and it came down to a crucial 4th and goal play right here. Quinn Ewers, this is just a filthy route by Xavier Worthy. Nice little cut there, leaving the Iowa State defenders for dead. That was a huge touchdown on 4th and goal with just about 4.5 minutes to go. Texas would go on to force a fumble and then ensuing Iowa State possession to win that one. But Texas loses that game. I mean, this season could have easily gone off the rails. So that was a much bigger play, I think, that a lot of people remember.
Absolutely. That route was filthy. Xavier Worthy just absolutely snapped him on that zig.
For sure. Well, now let's look at Longhorns' body of work as a whole. Obviously some really good moments like we showed there. Obviously some really tough moments, some second half collapses. So what grade overall would you give the Longhorns this year after finishing 8-4?
I'm going to go with a B, and if you told me the Longhorns were going to go 8-4 and end up in the Alamo Bowl at the beginning of the season, I might have given them a B+, maybe an A, but I think that ignores a lot of context considering some of the ways in which the losses happened. Some more second half blown leads, didn't even really show up against TCU in a really, really big game at DKR, and I think those are some games that Texas really had a chance to win and that they eventually just couldn't get it done. That being said, there needed to be some improvement. Sark definitely showed that improvement. Again, huge win in the Red River game, as you can see right here. But at the end of the day, there were some games that Texas should have won that they ended up not being able to. And that's
Talking about...
Yeah. That's why I'm going to give them a B.
I agree with that. I think that's a great assessment. I think 8-4 is technically a B+ year, but if you look at how they lost the Oklahoma State game, if you look at how they lost the Texas Tech game, they could have easily been 9-3, 10-2 this year, and so I think that's why it kind of knocks down to B. I think B is they were sufficient this year. I think they kind of did what you would expect them to do bare minimum, but there was nothing kind of exceptional above that. I will say, though, like you said, the improvement, I thought the defense was much improved this year, and some of it, too, is just having a quarterback who hadn't played in a game for 16, 18 months before he took the first snap against UL Monroe. So you're going to have those growing pains. I will say, moving forward, that running back room is loaded. It looks like the defense is slowly gelling together. They've got some young talent up on the offensive line. Kelvin Banks had a really good year. So things are looking bright, but especially when you look at this year and what could have been, and, if you don't blow leading into your Tech Oklahoma State, you're playing for a Big 12 championship game. It just seemed like there was a little bit more out on the table the Longhorns weren't able to take advantage of.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Now let's move forward. Let's go beyond Austin, and let's take a look about this college football season as a whole. And let's start with the game of the season. There were definitely some instant classics this year. Justin, let's start with you. What was the game of the season for you?
My game of the season had to be Tennessee, Alabama. Just the hype that went into that game in Tennessee. It was a great game all around. Absolutely lived up to the hype. Jalen Hyatt had one of the greatest games that I think I've ever seen from a college receiver. Alabama looked like they were going to get blown away early. Started off 21-7, and then they came back, ended up taking the lead late, but just overall an amazing game. Hendon Hooker played elite football all around. Alabama had a chance to win in the end, but there was a crucial interception that ended up being called back. And then, of course, Tennessee getting the ball with 15 seconds and driving all the way down to kick a field goal. Just super special stuff. That was definitely my game of the year.
That was crazy, scoop and score.
Lived up to the hype. And then yet another touchdown catch.
Jalen Hyatt had 4, maybe 5?
I think he had 5.
And this field goal barely got through.
Oh, it shouldn't have gone in. It was a knuckleball. And everything that went into this game just made it absolutely electric from start to finish.
Yeah, now the river gets to tell the tale of it with the goalpost in there. But yeah, that was a heck of a game. I'm going to go all the way back. This was early in the year. North Carolina taking on Appalachian State, and this was an absolutely crazy game. This game had 9 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. App State down by 14 at one point. I mean, the touchdowns just kept coming. There were 3 touchdowns in the final 31 seconds in this game. Just an absolutely insane game. Chase Bryce, the former Clemson and Duke quarterback, who's now playing against ACC opposition. I mean, this was the first game of the year, or one of the first games of the year. It was week 1 because North Carolina had played in week 0. But I mean, just defense was optional. Just a great game.
I remember my dad texted me 2 or 3 times throughout the game after I had already turned it off, anticipating that it was over, and Appalachian State would get the ball back again late. It was just wild.
Let's see if we had the onside kick. If you just fallen it, the game's over. Ben said he took it back for a touchdown. That made an 8-point game. App State had two attempts to get a 2-point conversion. They didn't get it. This was still unbelievable that they scored with 10 seconds left on this 25-yard touchdown pass. I mean, like you said, every time you thought this game was over, Appalachian State would come roaring back. So definitely my game of the year, just for the sheer amount of just chaos in the fourth quarter.
And there was just a bunch of chaos in App State's season as a whole from start to finish.
Yeah, for sure. Some definitely highs and then lows. I don't even think they ended up being bowl eligible. I think they were 6-6 with 2 FCS wins, so they didn't even end up bowl eligible after all this. So just a crazy, crazy year. Now let's go on. We talked about the best game of the year. Now we're going to go to the opposite end. We're going to go to the disappointment. By the way, worst game of the year I think is going to go to Iowa, South Dakota State. I'm just going to make that announcement right now. But disappointment of the year, team-wise, Justin, who do you have?
For me, it has to be Miami. They hired Mario Cristobal out of Oregon with the hopes of being back in the top 25, and they were ranked in the top 25 in the preseason. But as many of the Miami seasons of the last 5 to 6 years, they fell off incredibly quickly with losses to Texas A&M, who was a disappointment, Middle Tennessee, North Carolina, Duke. They got absolutely blown out by Florida State, 45-3. It just doesn't make any sense. This Miami team has roster. They hired the coach that they wanted, and they just look abysmal all around all season long.
Yeah, it's a terrible loss to get absolutely demolished like that by your arch rival. I'm going to actually go to a team that beat Miami this year. Texas A&M, man, they were ranked number 6 in the preseason poll. I remember we were talking before the year, they're going to win 9 or they're going to win 10 games. No, they went 5-7, and they got wins against UMass, Sam Houston, and a terrible Miami team. That's 3 out of their 5 wins right there. They won an Arkansas game. They probably shouldn't because Arkansas missed some field goals. And this one was the weirdest one, the highlights they're showing right now. I don't know how in the world they beat LSU. I will say that they finally got the right quarterback starting Connor Wegman. I know Tommy preached about him, but I really do. I saw Connor play in high school 1 week, and that dude's just an incredible athlete, great dual threat quarterback. I think he's the future for A&M, but what a disappointing season for A&M. It just seems like they're always talking about 10 wins and then all this, and they go 5-7. They really probably should have been 4-8.
Yeah, they just didn't look all that good all season long. Again, they figured out the quarterback, but should not have been as bad as they ended up being.
Well, we talked about the biggest disappointment of the year. Let's go to the flip it now. Most surprising team of the year. Justin, let's start with you.
I'm going to go with the Tulane Green Wave. I've been on Tulane all season long from beginning to end. They ended this season 10-2 or 11-2 after one of the worst seasons in program history last season, going 2-10, and they ended up winning their conference championship game against UCF, who was one of their 2 losses early on in the season. And what a lot of people don't realize is this team beat Kansas State in Manhattan as well. And Kansas State is now a team that's going to be playing in, I believe, a New Year's Six.
Yeah, so, Sugar, I believe.
Tulane getting their chance against USC should be a lot of fun, but Tulane has absolutely been the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with another team that's going to be New Year's Six Bowl. They're actually going to be in the playoffs, and that's TCU. TCU didn't even receive a single vote heading into the year. This team was not on anyone's radars. Max Duggan wasn't even the starter. It was Chandler Morris. TCU, they had this incredible comeback against Oklahoma State. Yes, that's former Texas tight end Jared Wiley right there. They had no business really winning that game as they went on to win it in double overtime. And then they had this. This may be the sequence of the year, this next play right here. They stormed the field like 5 times this year. But this is probably the sequence of the year. They run it on 3rd down against Baylor. No timeouts. So you got to get the field goal team on the field. And this is always crazy when teams do this. It's basically a fire drill. But Griffin Kell, cool as you like, comes out, gets set up, and nails the field goal to keep TCU's playoff hopes alive with a win over their arch rival. So TCU, I mean, no one had them on their radar. They didn't even have their starting quarterback starting at the beginning of the year, and now they're going to the playoff. Pretty remarkable turnaround for the Horned Frogs.
Yeah, that fire drill was electric. Kicker didn't even set himself up like normal. Just walked out there and kicked it, ice in his veins.
And they were 5-7 last year too, so just like Tulane, they were not coming off a good year. So definitely some surprises there. It's gonna be fun to watch both those teams in the New Year's Six. Now, finally, we're gonna end with the best play of the year. Justin, let's start with you.
There were a ton of great plays throughout college football all year long. It was really, really difficult to pick one. But this one comes in rivalry week. It's UCF versus South Florida. There was a one-handed touchdown catch by the tight end, Alex Waller. Absolutely amazing grab to win the game, remarkably. Look at that one more time. Reaches back, Odell Beckham Jr. style, gets the toe in. Touchdown for UCF. That was my play of the year.
That was a toe tap. I mean, that dude barely got his toe in.
Yeah, I don't know how he did it.
That was definitely crazy. For me, I'm going to go over. We already talked about App State this year. It's so weird. They started the year on such a high, and they just absolutely crashed down. This was a huge weekend for them. They got College Game Day. This was right after they beat Texas A&M and stole College Game Day from Texas A&M. But then it looked like they were going to get upset by Troy here if we can roll the clip. They've got one last chance, 2 seconds left. Chase Bryce, he's just going to throw up a prayer. This one doesn't even get up to the end zone. It's going to get tipped back. Christian Horn comes up with the catch, gets around, and scores to win the game for Appalachian State in incredible fashion. They look dead in the water in this game, and they pull off an absolute miracle. Here's the replay again. You got the 3 receivers. Horn's not even in the shot right here. Horn's going to come around, so it's going to get tipped up right here, and then watch Horn coming around right there, coming down with the catch. Great awareness by his receiver to throw that block there to spring into the outside. But what a way to win a football game after you've had a College Game Day. It was basically a 48-hour party in Boone, North Carolina, and that was a perfect way to punctuate it.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane Hail Mary. I've never seen anything like it, especially considering the weekend that they had stealing College Game Day.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for a college football recap of the year. It's definitely been a fun year. And I mean, this is a really maybe a wide-open playoff. It's going to be fun to watch. I think each of these 4 teams are going to be really fun to watch, and we'll have our predictions for them. Jordan's going to rejoin the show. You won't want to miss that coming up on the 1-0 Sports Show. Isn't Troy kind of good, though? Oh, thank you. Duluth Trading Gear Ball.
TSA loses. I just laughed so hard.
I'm going to be kind of sad.
Ooh, thank you.
Bless you. Oh no.
Right.
Somebody's staticky. Wait, you want to figure it out?
Is it Jordan? If it's Jordan, just tell him to mute Jordan's mic and see how it sounds.
If I mute mine, is that better?
Right.
If you mute it?
That's good.
Okay, if she muted you, they'll just get picked off of them.
Okay.
Picked up off of them.
No problemo. Oh, Aaron Judge re-signed with the Yankees.
It's like 300 and something million. 9 years. Yes.
Welcome back into the One in Sports Show for the final time this semester. And with us taking a couple of week hiatus for Christmas break, we're going to go ahead and pick all the bowl game or some of the bowl games. We're not going to pick all 41. We're not that psycho on the One in Sports Show. We've got 10 bowl games to pick along with the the college football playoff predictions in there as well. So let's start off with a matchup between two conference champions out in the Duluth Trading Cure Bowl. Duluth Trading jumping in on the sponsorship. We got number 25 UTSA and number 24 Troy. Justin, let's start with you. Who do you have in that one?
I'm going to go with UTSA. I live in San Antonio when I'm not here at UT, so I got to stick with the home team, go Road Runners, UTSA through and through.
I'm going to go the Troy Trojans. I'm going to be the contrarian. The Troy defense is good. They just beat Coastal Carolina. They blew them away in the conference championship game down there in the Sun Belt. So give me the Trojans over the Road Runners.
You know, as a San Antonio 210 native, just like Justin, I got to go the UTSA Road Runners. They showed a lot of resilience last week, 2 weeks ago against UTEP. They were down by 3-4 scores at halftime. They came back to win that game. Hasn't been as impressive of a year as last season for UTSA, but the city of San Antonio has their backs. Frank Harris, he's like as famous as the mayor at this point. And I'm going UTSA. Meet.
There we go. How about this one, the Gator Bowl, another matchup between ranked teams. This one's a couple weeks out, December 30th. Number 21 Notre Dame taking on number 19 South Carolina. Jordan, who do you have in that one?
I'm going to go with South Carolina. They didn't start the season the most impressive, but I think that they've ended really, really strongly, carrying some good momentum. And they've played spoiler to some teams like Tennessee and Clemson, some teams that may have previously had playoff hopes on their minds earlier in the season. South Carolina ruined any chances of that, and so I think that they're going to play spoiler to Notre Dame here also.
I think that's a great pick. I think the Gamecocks are one of the hottest teams in the nation. Spencer Rattler's looked good in recent weeks, so give me South Carolina to take this one.
I agree with everything that they just said, but I'm picking Notre Dame because bowl season gets really, really weird. Not a ton of reasoning behind this pick. I just think that Notre Dame, they started the season slow, a lot like South Carolina. I just think they're going to come out and play a really, really good game in the Gator Bowl. really no reasoning behind it. I think they're going to spoil South Carolina's end-of-season run.
Now going on to the Orange Bowl. This one is a fitting matchup. Two orange teams in the Orange Bowl. Number 7 Clemson, number 6 Tennessee. Justin, who do you have in that one?
I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think that even though they don't have Hendon Hooker, I think Joe Milton is playing really, really good football lately, and I think that Tennessee they've hit some roadblocks. You know, they were expected to make the playoff, ended up not even making the SEC championship. I think they're going to come out in the Orange Bowl and really show what they're made of, so I got Tennessee over Clemson.
Two thoughts on this one. Hooker should absolutely be in New York over Stetson Bennett. Number 2, though, unfortunately, with him out, I'm going to go Clemson because Cade Klubnik looked really, really good in that ACC championship game. He should have been starting all year, and I know Samantha Pearl's going to give him a heck of a pregame speech before this one, so give me the Tigers in that one. Jordan?
Yeah, shout out Samantha Pearl, Cade Klubnik, Samantha's best friend,
Yep.
bestie. Yeah, I think that with that quarterback switch, Clemson's kind of really hit their stride, and I'm going to pick them over Tennessee. But I will say it's a missed opportunity. I know that home and away teams have to wear different colors. They should both be wearing orange for the Orange Bowl.
Maximum chaos in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah, you could throw it to defenders you wouldn't even know, but it would look cool.
Sugar Bowl, December 31st, 11 a.m. Number 9, Kansas State. Number 5, Alabama. Jordan, who do you have in that one?
Whenever it comes to this time of year, it's really hard not to pick Alabama, and so I'm doing so here. I'm going to go with Alabama, even though they haven't looked the most impressive. They've had 2 losses against Tennessee and against LSU, but I mean those are both good teams, and obviously you can never count on Nick Saban when it comes to this time of year. I know Alabama's kind of pissed off that they didn't get in the college football playoff. They're going to take out their anger on Kansas State here.
This is a really tough pick for me. I keep going back and forth on this one. I think that's a great point. I'm going to go Alabama in the end. I think that the Crimson Tide are just too talented in this one. Kansas State. We'll just see if Deuce-Vaughn they can establish the run, but I'm afraid about the physicality that Alabama in the trenches might be just too much for the Wildcats in this one. Justin, what do you think?
I'm also going to go Alabama. Even if Will Anderson and Bryce Young don't play, the talent on Alabama's second and third strings is just still super. They're more talented than Kansas State across the board, even their second and third strings.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going to go with Alabama. I think Kansas State could definitely keep it close. Going to be rooting for Deuce Vaughn, my guy, but Alabama wins this one in the end.
And their backup quarterback, Jalen Milroe, he is fast. So he'll be keep an eye on him if he gets on the field. Now going over to the Cotton Bowl, another New Year's Six Bowl. Number 16, Tulane, looking to shock the world against number 10, USC. Justin, can they do it?
I think they do it. I'm just sticking with Tulane because I really, really like Tulane, and I think they have a really good rushing attack, and USC's run defense has not been all that great to end this season. So that's why I'm going to go with Tulane. Plus, I just like the group of 5 wave, so that's why I'm going to go with them.
I love Tulane. I think this is a terrible matchup for them. I think USC's a really talented team. Caleb Williams, assuming he plays, if he plays in this one, I think the USC offense is just too much. I think they'll outscore Tulane and come away with the victory. Jordan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think speaking of talent levels with last question with Kansas State and Alabama, I think you could say the same thing here. Tulane, really tough, gritty, resilient team, super impressive story, but USC's talent is just they've just got too much on, especially the offensive side of the ball. So if Caleb Williams plays, I'm going USC. If he doesn't play though, I might go Tulane as well.
A little bit of a disclaimer. We're doing this like 4 weeks out, so,
Yeah.
so you're allowed to have disclaimers on this one. Next game, the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all, as they always advertise on ABC. We got number 11 Penn State and number 8 Utah. Utah nearly did it last year against Ohio State in this game. Jordan, do they do it this year?
Unfortunately, I don't think so. I'm going to go with Penn State because Penn State, I mean, they've had 2 losses, but those 2 losses are against 2 of the top 4 teams in the country with Michigan and Ohio State. I think that they've looked absolutely dominating as of late, and I think that they're going to continue their domination even all the way over on the West Coast.
I'm going to say not so fast. Penn State is not going to beat the Texas B squad. We got Cameron Rising. We got Jaquindon Jackson. The Utes look good in that Pac-12 championship game. I think they go out and they avenge the loss from last year. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this one, though. Both teams have some talented offenses. Give me Utah in a shootout out in the Rose Bowl.
I'm choosing Utah as well. I think they're going to come out motivated for last year's Rose Bowl loss, and I don't see any of Penn State's competition that they've played all year long. You know, we've talked about the Big Ten being extremely weak. Utah's beat USC twice, and I think that's really going to come in handy, and that's why I have them beating Penn State. Again, I also think it's going to be a shootout.
Before we get into the playoff predictions, now let's go back to the Alamo Bowl. People in Austin will be keeping an eye on this one. December 29th, 8 o'clock. Number 20, Texas. Number 12, Washington. Justin, who do you have in that one?
I have Texas. It's going to be really, really difficult to stop their dual-threat quarterback, but Texas is really talented on the defensive end this year, and I think Quinn Ewers is going to come out with some extra motivation in this one. This one feels almost like a home game over in San Antonio, so that's why I'm picking Texas, and I think it'd be a great way to end the season on a high note.
Texas has won the last 2 times they've been in the Alamo Bowl, and this Washington defense is nothing to write home about. I think that could be the difference. It'll be interesting to see who actually plays in this one. I just have a feeling with how much Bijan Robinson loves Texas, I think he might actually play in this game. If not, then you got Roschon Johnson, Jonathan Brooks. I think the running backs, whoever plays for Texas, the running backs make the difference against kind of a poorish Washington defense. So give me the Longhorns, but they're going to have to score in this one if they want to win. Michael Penix Jr., he's going to put up some points for Washington, so I think he's probably going to take about 35 to win this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Michael Penix Jr., one of the better quarterbacks in the country, also could have gotten a New York invite over Stetson Bennett, but that's a story for another day. However, I'm going Texas as well. Absolutely no bias at all in these picks here, of course. But yeah, I think that Texas, when it comes to the Alamo Bowl, the fans always show out, the team always shows out. Even if Bijan doesn't play, I think that the offense is still sufficient enough with Roschon and Brooks and Keelan Robinson to where they can still score points. And the defense, much better than Washington's defense. I think that they'll be able to at least not stop Penix Jr., but at least sort of contain him. Yeah.
Now let's move on to the college football playoffs. Fiesta Bowl, New Year's Eve at 3 o'clock. Number 2, Michigan. Number 3, TCU. Jordan, who's your pick in that game?
I'm going to go with number 2, Michigan. Unfortunately. I mean, not unfortunately. I think that TCU is a really, tough, resilient team. I think I've said that about like 3 teams at this point. Also a good story, which I also said at this point already. But I think that Michigan is just, they've got too loaded of a roster. They've looked really, really good this entire season, undefeated, obviously. I think that they get it done again right here in the Fiesta Bowl.
Key piece missing for Michigan, Blake Corum, their running back. He's not going to play. I think that could create an avenue for TCU. I'm going to go for the Horned Frogs. I'm going to go for the upset. TCU is being motivated to be here, especially after the committee. They shut them out 7-8 years ago, where TCU was ranked number 3, beat Iowa State 55-3, and then got dropped out of the playoffs for some reason by the committee. I think TCU gets their revenge. This Michigan team has not looked unbeatable. Illinois almost beat them. They've had some tight games. I think this TCU team is talented enough. I think they're going to regroup, and when they have found ways to win games they probably should have all year long, I think they could do that again in this one, especially with Blake Corum out. Give me the Horned Frogs in an upset. Justin?
I think what you just said about they found ways to win games, I think that's exactly why I'm going to choose Michigan in this one, just because TCU has started a lot of games really slow. And against a really good rushing attack that Michigan has, even with Blake Corum out, it's going to be difficult to come back against a team like Michigan in ways that they've been able to do it against Big 12 teams. So that's why I'm going to choose Michigan. I think their front is elite on the defensive end, and their rushing attack is going to be really strong to kind of keep that lead throughout the entire game. But it could be a lot closer than people think.
Now let's go over to the other semifinal, the Peach Bowl. Number 1, Georgia. Number 4, Ohio State. Jackson Smith and Jigba, star receiver for Ohio State, not playing due to a hamstring injury. Jordan, who's your pick in that one?
Yeah, disappointing that Smith and Jigba isn't playing. I mean, I get it, obviously. I just love to see him play. I'm going to go with Georgia, the reigning national champion. I don't think that anybody has showed that they can beat them yet this season. I think that their defense is really, really good, even with losing a lot of key players these past couple of years. And their offense is, I was about to say sufficient enough, but no, their offense has been good as well. I'm going to go with Georgia pretty convincingly over Ohio State, like 2-3 scores.
I agree. I think Georgia is the best team in the nation, kind of heads above everyone else. I think they've showed that in the past couple of weeks, absolutely demolishing LSU. They even really shut down a Tennessee team when they played them. Hendon Hooker in the offense, they just couldn't get much going. I think Georgia could kind of squelch the Ohio State offense in a similar manner as they did to Tennessee. So give me the Bulldogs. I agree. I think they're going to win by at least 2 scores in this one.
I also agree. It's got to be Georgia. And the reason is because I just don't think that Ohio State has enough weapons on offense with Smith and Jigba out. They have Marvin Harrison Jr., but C.J. Stroud is only elite when he has a lot of time in the pocket, in my opinion. And that's why I think that Georgia's going to end up winning this game. They're going to get a lot of pressure on Stroud throughout. Their rushing attack is solid, and Ohio State's defense just isn't good enough.
Now let's move on. We picked the semifinals. Now for our national champion pick. Before we head to break, Justin, who's going to be your champion at the end of the day?
It's a repeat for the Dogs. I don't see them losing anywhere in the college football playoff. Whoever they play, it could be Michigan, it could be TCU. I just think their roster is too stacked. They're too experienced. Stetson Bennett has been on the big stage a few times now, so that's why I'm going Georgia.
I think that's a great pick. I think Georgia showed against LSU. LSU is not a bad team, and Georgia absolutely dominated them. They dominated Tennessee. I mean, Georgia has looked like the best team in the nation. Aside from that weird game up in Missouri, they've looked like the best team in the nation all year long. I think they're going to prove that on the national stage. So give me the Dogs out in Los Angeles. They're going to have to go coast to coast to go win this thing, but I think Georgia gets it done out there in the national championship.
Absolutely. I wanted to pick against Georgia just to be contrarian, but I can't because they've just looked too good this entire season. I think it is going to be Michigan that they play, going to be a matchup of the college football playoff game last year, and we all know how that turned out. Georgia won that pretty convincingly. Obviously, I mean, there's different players, different personnel on those teams, but I think that it's going to be Georgia again.
Well, that's a clean sweep of the panel. I think it shows just how convincing Georgia has been, but I think we've learned one thing in college football. You can always expect the unexpected. So it's going to be fun to watch these semifinals on New Year's Eve. And then the national championship pick. Yeah, the Cure Bowl, too. That's actually one of the first bowl games. Gets us underway here in about a week and a half. But that's going to do it for this morning on the One Sports Show. Justin, Jordan, thank you so much for joining us today. Shout out to Cece Rodriguez and Samantha Pearl for running things behind the scenes today. And that wraps up a semester, guys. It's been a really fun one here at TSTV Sports. We can't wait to bring you all more coverage in the spring. But for Jordan and Justin, I'm Adam Ogburn. Have a great rest of your week, and have a happy holidays and Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in January.